Hey everyone, it's Quickie Baby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be role-playing as a bit of a lunatic of a Frenchman in the AMX 1357. Now this premium tank at tier 7 has been in the game for about 4 years now. When it first went into the game, it wasn't really, I would say, the best premium light tank around, and it was more of a kind of like a meme tank. Sure, it has a massive magazine with 8 rounds, although as the name would suggest, it has a 57mm main armament that deals 90 damage with every shot. Yeah, that's not a lot. Even if you put 8 shells in, times by 90, well then you're only going to be dealing 720 seconds. And it's going to take you 7 seconds from the first shot to be able to deal that. Well, not all that impressive when you think that there are many vehicles around about tier 7 or tier 8 that are starting to pack 240 alpha damage. And back in the day, when this vehicle used to get +3 -1 matchmaking, like all light tanks did, yeah, it was a lot of fun to just go wild and be able to unload your magazine into a self-propelled gun, for example, or when you get the side of a medium tank or a heavy tank. It wasn't really, I'd say, the best vehicle. However, then roll Wargaming's Light Tank Tech Tree update, where they decided to restructure all of the light tanks basically by nerfing them and adding in a few ones towards the upper end with the tier 9 and tier 10 vehicles. And the thing is that they had to nerf all of these light tanks. But of course, Wargaming don't make a habit of nerfing premium vehicles once they put them into the game, and yeah, you're seeing why this vehicle is quite hilarious. That T25-2 just got absolutely ripped apart, but for all of that firing, I think it was about 400 or 500 damage. But I digress, back to my point. The Wargaming nerfed all of the regular light tanks, but they don't nerf premium tanks, and considering this tank was in the game, they didn't change any of the statistics of the vehicle. They just simply gave it better matchmaking, and so it no longer got +3 -1 where it would meet tier 10 tanks, and the best vehicles it would meet would be tier 6. Now it gets +2 -2 matchmaking, and so you can meet up to tier 5 tanks in this vehicle. And, you know, when you're meeting tier 5 tanks, then your 890 hit points feel more impressive. The fact that the vehicle has 390 meters view range means it actually becomes quite a proficient scout, even though it doesn't really have the best camo rating. And its mobility is substantially worse than its same tier counterpart now, the 1375. And so all in all, the 1357 went from being a bit of a stinker to now being probably one of the best light tanks tier for tier in the game. Although it doesn't look like that Fury will be agreeing with me there, as we managed to bounce off the side of the lower tiered medium tank. And while you might be noticing that we're dealing a lot of, well, we're putting in a lot of shots, we're just not really doing a large amount of damage. And when I'm saying this tank is the crazy Frenchman, that's because in this kind of scenario, do you see how your reticle never really fully aims? And so you really just have to hold down that mouse button and just go, ah, like that, and hopefully the opponent dies before you finish. Or alternatively, you die and then you get to go back into the garage and pick another tank. Now, the reason why I've been playing this vehicle recently is not because I've suddenly realized, oh my god, this is an incredibly overpowered tier 7 premium light tank, but I've been training up my French premium wheeled light tank crews in preparation for that line as they've now entered the game. And then I just realized how crazy this thing is. And I guess for a lot of you, it might be one of the most fun light tanks you could probably try and get your hands on. And if you've already got one in your garage and you haven't dusted it off in a few years, definitely try it out now. And with the matchmaker being a lot more favorable, yeah, it does do rather well. There's one thing that I must mention, however, and that is that it carries such a small amount of ammunition. This vehicle can only carry, gosh, how many rounds can it carry? I can't even see. Oh dear, this is a note fail. How can he recover this? Well, it doesn't carry enough ammunition, is what I'm going to be saying. We're going to be showing you in the next battle especially. And oh, that was a beautiful moment there as we wiggled to the left and the right and made that T150 look silly as he dumps the shot right down the center, keeping us alive long enough to be able to just harass the side of that vehicle in the end. But yeah, this vehicle basically just doesn't really carry enough ammunition. Its potential damage is only 5,000. Okay, I finally found the amount of rounds it can carry. 56. And so even in a game like this, we've done 3,000 damage in the just over 4 minutes of the battle. You can be running out of ammunition towards the end of it. And another thing I must mention is that because the penetration is so poor on this tank, even at tier 7, at 143 of its standard rounds and 195 of its premium rounds, when you do end up against tier 9 opponents, you're going to be wanting to dab that 2 key. And the premium rounds on this tank, they only deal 90 damage, and yet they don't really get much of a discount. They cost 2,800 every shot, which is like 22,400 credits per magazine. And so that means if you want to be playing it like this, where you do take a substantial amount of premium rounds so you can manage to be competitive in your bad matchups. It can be a rather expensive tank to play, as we're going to be seeing in the post-game stats. But before that, seeing how this was a very nice matchup for the vehicle, why don't we also see how it does in its +2 games? And so here you go, the matchup as bad as it can be for the 1357, well, at least as bad as it can be now. Back in the day, remember, this vehicle used to be able to meet tier 10 tanks, and this was before Wargaming's template system, and so pretty much most of the enemy team could have been tier 10. Now, while that allowed for some crazy spotting games or some ridiculous experience rounds, yeah, this tank these days, it just feels so much better when you do get more consistent matchmaking, and you do have that +2, -2. Alright, so the 1357 has made it into the middle, and we're going to see if we can take out our standard counterpart. And while we do bounce a couple of shells there off a light tank, and remember, one of the things, but now there's the, oh my gosh, let's get out of here moment. That is an Object 430 playing rather aggressively, and while we managed to do 659 spotting to the fella, that's not what we want to hang around, not for any longer at all. And now notice that the 1357 is not the fastest of light tanks. Well, it unloads in true glorious fashion. It does take quite a while to be able to relocate, and so do keep that in mind when you're trying to take these out on the battlefield. That if you're in even a fast medium tank, you can pretty much keep up with them. And they don't have the best power to weight ratio like a lot of light vehicles do, and so you can manage to take advantage if they're trying to race into an awkward position early, if they're going up slope, or even if they bash through a few walls as we see now, they're going to slow right down and be a fairly easy target to hit. Alright, so I didn't like that 430 kind of muscled me out of that position, but it was right for me to give up the position to him, otherwise I would have pretty much just lost this battle right at the beginning. Well, at least for myself. My team might have been able to go on to win. But I want to try and get my revenge here. So I'm going to just take a look to see where that 430 is. And remember, he doesn't have that many hit points left. 614. Looks like we managed to spot him. We're going to put one through the side of the vehicle, and I'm not going to stay around there for very long. Looks like he blind fires me through the bush, actually. And now it's looking like we can actually shoot through there because the reticle is yellow. But don't trust the reticle because, of course, it's not taking into account all the spaced armor we have to put over the side of the tank. And with 2,800 credits per shot, I don't really want to waste the ammunition. But okay. How about if I change the angle now? The 430 thinks I'm in that same location. He's still aiming at where I was, but he doesn't react quick enough for us to put those 2 rounds in the side. Because we changed the angle so that the side of the tank was less angled and was flatter, we're able to go through the Object 430U. Sorry, not 430U, the Object 430, although we did have to pay to do it. Now I'm being pressured now by another Tier 9 tank. There's only 2 Tier 9 tanks and 1 Tier 9 self-propelled gun on the enemy team, and they're both pressuring me really early. So this is a nice effort that I managed to evade this and even get some spotting out on the M103 there. And I thought, well, Scorpion G, Sturm Mill, we can see where the Sturm Mill is. Maybe the Scorpion will be in the center, but it was far safer to just run away from that situation and try and get towards the center of the map where maybe we're even going to be able to spot out anybody who's located in this kind of area and just avoid the fight. And it's all about controlling the engagement in your light tanks and specifically your auto-loading light tanks. And here we go. This is the good stuff, right? Tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. He actually misses, and it's the M103 who puts a round through our turret, and he jams our turret, so we're unable to be able to continue to fire, although maybe we unloaded the entire magazine by then. How much damage did we do to the ISM there? I didn't quite see what the final tally was. Enough. It looks like it was about maybe 650 damage dealt, although again, we paid for that magazine. It was 22,400 credits. And do you really need to take all of the premium rounds that I am taking on this vehicle? Well, it's for when you get into matchups like this. It's just bouncing the standard rounds, and then remember, as I mentioned, that because the vehicle, the potential damage, the max potential damage of the 56 rounds that it can carry is only 5,040. It's just absolutely brutal. And so you can quite often just not have enough ammunition to be able to carry the game at the end. And so when it comes down to it, is it better to make a few extra credits in the game or to have the kind of rounds that you need to be able to actually carry the round? Well, it's going to be up to you to decide. If you're a free-to-play player, I would thoroughly not recommend this vehicle. While it can be hilarious, I just don't think the penetration is enough on its standard rounds. It doesn't carry enough ammunition for you to be tactical, and you will be running out of them, and it will end up costing you credits. However, if you're a pay-to-win player, you've got a premium count, you've even got a few credit boosters, then this thing can be some rapid crew training. And another thing that I was doing with this tank is actually using it to complete missions. Yeah, cause damage to cause damage to enemies 15 times by shooting them and destroy 3 enemy vehicles, no problem, right? 1357, probably the best vehicle in the game for managing to chew through some of those funky missions which require you to penetrate a lot. All right, so we miss our first, second in, third in, fourth in, fifth in, sixth, seventh, and we actually low roll the 7th shell, so we have to put our 8th in as well against the 5100. Good night, sweetheart. That's one French autoloader cannibalizing another, and oh dear, there's a tier 9 American artillery that was eyeing us down, but luckily it doesn't look like he's still shooting us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bam, that was a satisfying moment, and we get to reload again to hopefully take on that T-34. So, I mean, AMX 1357, you be the judge. Does it have too low alpha damage per shell? Does it have too low penetration and carry too little ammunition to be a contender for one of the light tanks that you might want to get your hands on? I'm not sure. In this kind of a scenario, it's all about just being careful with your rounds as well. Even rounds as well. Waiting for the opportunity for when the T-34 is over-angling his armor, as we can see here, and that's just allowing us to pick him apart and then one right into the back of the tank. That was a perfect magazine, and if I do say so myself, that was okay marksmanship with the targets that we played in there. But of course, it's always nice when the T-34 basically just spins right round, baby, right round, to try and deal with the T-54 Mod 1. You get to go into the side of that rather weakly armored tier 8 American heavy tank. Alright, so IS-6 here. I'm thinking the IS-6 is going to jam a shell into me, but the IS-6 actually decides to shoot at the Tiger II instead. We're going to finish off the IS-6 with a shell to the flank, and oh, look at that. Professional Quacky Baby even poses at the end of the game for a screenshot. I guess I maybe thought that this was a pretty alright round in the 6 minutes that the game lasted. So our first round on Stajanki was an absolute blitz. We get a high caliber tank sniper and a top gun here for 3,300 damage down. This was 1,663 base in under 4.5 minutes. Not too bad, but oh, boys and girls, look at this ammunition cost. 90,000 credits spent on ammunition. And again, I didn't need to fire all of those premium rounds because I needed the extra penetration. I needed to fire them because the tank just doesn't carry enough ammunition. And in your great rounds like this, when you run out of your standard ammunition, you have to dip into those premium rounds that you carry for your +2 matchmaking, which makes it incredibly awkward. Round 2 on Lakeville was more of the same. We get an ace tanker here, an Orlix medal for destroying 2 or more enemy vehicles that were at least 1 tier higher, a top gun, and 1,816 base experience. Oh, not too bad. But this time, because we were running a credit booster, we actually make a very meaty profit of 88,000 credits. But if we take the credit booster away, I guess this was still 30,000 profit with a premium account. But if we didn't have one, we would have lost 10k from this battle. And so the AMX 1357, an absolute lunatic of a French tank, and now that its matchmaking has effectively just been buffed without any of the statistics of the tanks being nerfed, is definitely one of the more powerful light tanks tier for tier in the game. And now that lots of you are making your way up the French-wheeled light tank tech tree, this can be a good opportunity for you to train up your crews. However, buyer beware, this is not a cheap tank to play, but if you, on the other hand, decide to refuse to load the premium rounds into your vehicle, then you might just not have enough penetration to be able to deal with some of the heavier vehicles in your equal or higher tier games. So the choice is yours. And so that's it for today, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed this double helping of French craziness. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as is released on Sunday, I'm live right now on Twitch with another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase. And this week, considering that the AMX 13105 is currently on track and on a massive discount on the North American server, I thought there's no better possible time to show off the French tracked light tanks, which lead to the vehicle which actually has the highest damage of any light tank in the game. And so come along right now as I showcase all of the vehicles along the line so you can see if it's maybe a line that's interesting for you, or alternatively, if you're attempting to go through them in the on-track missions, then perhaps you can pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many views as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickieBaby.